Hi, I'm Paul Arthur. This is Forum Daily West. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. Prime Minister Mark Carney holds his first press conference since his election victory and announces that King Charles will be visiting Ottawa for the throne speech. An Alberta MP will be giving up his seat to allow Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to run in a by-election to regain a seat in Parliament. The Lethbridge Hurricanes did their end-of-season locker room cleanout today. We talk with Coach Peters and the players. Thanks for joining us. Newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet with U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. this Tuesday. The two are expected to discuss Trump's trade war with Canada, and the talks could set the stage for negotiations on a new trade and security pact with the U.S. Carney took questions from reporters in Ottawa today for the first time since securing a minority government in his first election on Monday. He also announced that his cabinet will be sworn in on the week of May 12th.
We will begin to set out that new path for Canada with a new cabinet to be sworn in on the week of the 12th of May and the recall of Parliament on May 26th. We will have the privilege of welcoming His Majesty King Charles III, who will deliver Canada's speech from the throne on May 27th. Her Majesty the Queen will join this visit. To the immediate priorities of my government, beginning with our relationship with the United States. As I've stressed repeatedly, our old relationship, based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The questions now are how our nations will cooperate in the future and where we in Canada will move on.
Carney says he invited the King to read the throne speech as it underscores Canadian sovereignty in the face of U.S. President Donald Trump's talk of annexation. Also, when asked by reporters, Carney said that he will not seek a formal agreement with the NDP to avoid a snap election. An Alberta MP has agreed to step aside to allow Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to run in a by-election. Damien Kourek says he's temporarily stepping aside as MP for the Battle River Crowfoot riding. Kourek will first need to be sworn in before he resigns his seat. The Battle River Crowfoot riding is in eastern Alberta and includes the city of Camrose, as well as the towns of Stettler, Drumheller, Hanna, Three Hills, Toefield, Viking, and Wainwright. Prime Minister Carney has said he would call a by-election as soon as possible if the Conservatives had a member resign their seat so that Poilievre could run again. Alberta's United Conservative government says it's in the final stages of a revamp of the province's healthcare system. Health Minister Adriana LaGrange says Bill 55 will dismantle the provincial health authority, Alberta Health Services, reducing it to a hospital services provider and putting 4 new agencies in charge.
Public health will be moved out of Alberta Health Services, strengthening public health's role in protecting the well-being of all Albertans and allowing AHS to focus on delivering acute care services. Primary Care Alberta will deliver public health prevention and wellness programs aimed at empowering Albertans to reduce health risks. This includes frontline public health services such as communicable disease control, immunizations, newborn screening, and health promotion. Key functions like policy development and public health inspections and surveillance will transition to Alberta Health, as will the province's medical officers of health. There will be no disruption to public health functions and activities while this work is underway, and Albertans will continue to access public health services as they always have.
The proposed legislation would shuffle workers represented by 5 different unions from AHS to a different agency. Opposition NDP health critic Sarah Hoffman says it's another example of the minister consolidating control in her office, and it appears unions were not consulted in the process. The Congress of Aboriginal Peoples is adding its voice to other Indigenous groups who are calling for an immediate halt to the planned auction of cultural and sacred items currently held by the Hudson's Bay Company. HBC's assets hit the sales block after the company filed for creditor protection earlier this year. The Congress calls the planned auction of more than 4,400 artifacts and artworks deeply troubling. It says the items are not commercial goods to be bought and sold. They are pieces of Indigenous identity, history, and living heritage. The Congress is urging the courts, the Government of Canada, and the Hudson's Bay Company to immediately suspend any auction plans and begin a process of engagement with all affected Indigenous groups, including those represented by CAP. Canada's capital is among the communities affected by a flood warning on the lower Ottawa River. The Rideau Valley Conservation Authority says recent rainfall and snowmelt have seen water levels and flows steadily rise in the Ottawa River. And more rain and meltwater are forecasted in the coming days. High water levels are expected to last through Monday. BC Premier David Eby says today's provincial day of mourning for the victims of the deadly attack at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival in Vancouver gives residents a chance to show their solidarity with the Filipino community. 11 people were killed and several others injured last Saturday after an SUV sped through a crowded street at the event. The 30-year-old suspect in the case is due to appear in provincial court today to make an application. Adam Kai G. Low faces 8 charges of second-degree murder, and police have said more charges are forthcoming. 5 years later, and the fallout from COVID lockdowns continues to unfold. The Supreme Court of Canada has refused to hear the case of an Ontario doctor challenging the College of Physicians and Surgeons. In 2020, Dr. Kulvinder Kaur Gill wrote a Twitter commentary about what she felt were harmful governmental COVID policies. As required, the doctor also provided evidence to support her position. However, the college responded with what are called orders for cautions in person. While these cautions aren't sanctions, her lawyer, Lisa Bildy, says it does have an impact.
And in Dr. Gill's case, they even sent notices of these orders all over the continent to various hospitals and state boards and so on. So, I mean, technically, it's not a disciplinary outcome for her. It won't affect her license in any way, but it certainly has a public repercussion. And of course, the other aspect of it is that it casts a chilling effect on other professionals because, you know, your reputation is important as a professional. You've worked hard all your life to have a certain respectability in your profession, and then now you're worried that if you excuse me, if you say something that doesn't kind of align with what you're allowed to think and say, you're going to find yourself up before your regulatory body, slapping you on the wrist at best, or maybe even, you know, something more draconian. So it can't help but have a chilling effect on professionals. And when we're talking about medical professionals and scientists, you know, it's very dangerous to society to curtail what's essential to scientific and medical understanding.
Bildy says the Ontario Court of Appeal also denied Dr. Gill's request for leave to appeal last October. So this decision by the Supreme Court leaves her without any further legal options. The City of Lethbridge is now enforcing a new animal care and control bylaw. The new bylaw replaces rules that hadn't been changed in decades and streamlines all animal-related regulations into one modern, accessible document. Included in the changes, residents are now limited to a maximum of 6 cats. The voluntary cat licensing initiative is continuing. A low-cost microchipping program for cats and dogs is coming later this year to help bring lost pets home. Dog owners can now use their own tags as long as they show the city license number. And a permit process is now in place to support a potential urban hen pilot program, pending approval of that program. May is Sexual Violence Awareness Month. According to the Association of Alberta Sexual Assault Services, almost 1.8 million Albertans have experienced some form of sexual violence in their lifetime. Here in Lethbridge, Chinook Sexual Assault Centre continues doing its work to avoid violence and support survivors, from crisis to therapy. Chinook Sexual Assault Centre CEO Christine Cassie says their programs are growing, and to handle that growth, they're holding an event next week.
And our programs have really grown. So when we started, we had maybe 2 200 crisis calls a year. We're now hitting about 750 crisis calls a year. Right now we're working on a restorative justice model that is just to do with sexual assault survivors, adult sexual assault survivors. So the art show is called Impact Unveiled Beyond the Silence. It's going to be happening at the Yates Memorial Theatre on the upper level there. That's going to run from May until September. We have Chrome Harvest that's going to be doing a concert at the Owl later in May as well, which is a fundraiser for our agency. We have a 50-50 going on, and pretty soon we're going to launch another special raffle. It's a way for us to engage with communities so that they can learn more about it, because we know if we learn more about it and we talk about it, we can do more about it.
As part of Budget 2025, we were able to increase funding for sexual assault centers, as well as that there is women's shelters as well throughout the entire province. And my ministry also supports domestic violence prevention programs as well of almost $9 million per year, as well as we have many programs through our family resource networks that help families on the preventative side to receive additional support if they require.
Turton says the ministry will finalize a comprehensive 10-year strategy to end gender-based violence that will guide long-term province-wide action to address these underreported crimes. Actor-comedian Russell Brand arrived at a London court on Friday to face charges of rape and sexual assault involving 4 women. The 49-year-old was swarmed by photographers as he arrived at Westminster Magistrates Court for his first hearing since being charged last month. It's alleged the incidents occurred over a 20-year span. Brand did not enter a plea and was granted bail, which allows him to return to Florida, where he now lives with his wife and children. Brand has been very public about his conversion to Christianity about a year ago and has maintained his innocence. Back here at home, tomorrow is Highway Cleanup Day across the province. Between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., volunteers wearing bright safety vests will be collecting trash along Alberta highways to raise funds for community organizations. Drivers are reminded to slow down, obey signs, watch for pedestrians, and use caution when passing cleanup crews. Last year, volunteers from 728 organizations cleaned up roughly 12,000 kilometers of Alberta roads. With the government offering $100 for every kilometer cleaned, the groups raised about $1.2 million. After being swept by the Medicine Hat Tigers in the 3rd round of the playoffs, members of the Lethbridge Hurricanes are looking back at the season with a sense of success. Players Noah Chadwick, Braden Edwards, and Logan McCutcheon have now aged out from the Western Hockey League and will be moving on to new opportunities. As the Canes front office looks ahead to the offseason in order to shuffle the roster around, the players are reflecting on the connections that they had within the locker room and the city of Lethbridge.
Yeah, I thought it was a great year. I think that we had an unbelievable group in there, and I loved getting to know the new guys kind of as they came in and made some friendships that'll last a lifetime. Obviously, it didn't end up the way we wanted it to, but I think I'm extremely proud of every guy in that room for the effort that we put in over the year, and very, very proud to be teammates with them.
Tremendous amount of respect for Bill and our coaching staff. They were fantastic for us, and I personally learned a lot from them, and I'm really grateful to have had Bill the last couple of years as our head coach, and I think that could be said from everyone in the room for sure.
Yeah, I think it's been a really good season. I think personally, I was really happy with how it went, and then from a team standpoint, it's the best group of guys I've been a part of, and obviously we had a really good success. We beat a really, really strong team in Calgary, so I was really proud of the team for doing that. Obviously, we came up a little short, but nothing to be mad about. We had a good season, and we're happy about it. The city as a whole, they're really supportive. The fans are awesome here. I don't know if there's really any place like it in the WHL.
You're going 1,000 mile an hour, and all of a sudden you hit a wall and it's over. So some good things in the season for sure. Obviously, a couple tough playoff rounds and a lot of growth individually, collectively for the team. So in good shape moving forward. But now the work is more upstairs, and in the scouting department there'll be a U.S. priority draft coming. There'll be the Western League draft, the Bantam draft coming. There will be lots coming down the pipe with the CHL, NCAA, that all getting settled out and everything else. So this organization is going to work hard, and they're going to do everything they can to put the best product on the ice possible.
The Lethbridge and District Exhibition is hosting Geek Fest this weekend. a showcase of small businesses and vendors who share elements of pop culture, gaming, and new technologies. Visitors can check out new innovations and discover more features involved in tabletop games, virtual reality, and AI. The event is in its second year, run by Domesticated Divas Events, who say the event gives people an opportunity to discover all things geeky.
We have a very geeky, nerdy group in Lethbridge, people who are big onto D&D, gaming, and all of that sort of thing. A lot of these businesses are home-based businesses, and they don't get as much exposure because of that as you would get with some of our storefronts that are in Lethbridge that a lot of people are familiar with. So this gives them a chance to showcase what their talents are, what they have to offer, and to give people more selection of different things that they can get. And we've seen a wonderful response from the public, and we look forward to continuing to grow for that. So we really wanted to hit that niche market for our Lethbridge residents.
The event will run for one more day on Saturday from 9 to 5. The nation of Singapore is going to the polls for their general election on Saturday. Singapore is somewhat of an unusual democracy in that the same party has been ruling for decades. Opposition parties are hopeful that will change, although it will certainly be a steep uphill climb.
Singaporeans will vote Saturday in a general election that is set to return to power the city-state's long-ruling party. It will be the first key test for Prime Minister Lawrence Wong since he took power last year. The People's Action Party has governed Singapore since 1959, overseeing its transformation from a former colonial backwater into one of the world's richest nations.
That is your Forum Daily West report. I'm Paul Arthur. Thanks so much for watching.